Welcome back to Friendly Free Thinker. I certainly have been thinking about this subject for a very long time, and as I say in the notes, it's kind of boiled my blood for many years. This concept of eternal torture. Um, it's just one of the most horrible beliefs that's ever been invented and passed down by fear-based faith for century after century. So I wrote this column recently that went out in the USA Today network, had quite a few responses, people commenting on it, um, mostly positive about this. So I just want to read this and see what you think. For some unknown reason, a nice smiling lady handed me a book and asked if I would read it. A bit puzzled to see the title, I told her I would take a look. The title was Meditations on Death, Preparing for Eternity. Well, seems a strange book to give to a perfect stranger, but I've seen worse. Since it's a work attributed to the Catholic saint Thomas à Kempis, I told the woman I had read his classic actually in seminary and I think in college when I was studying mystics. His book, The Imitation of Christ, very famous book in Christian history. Well, opening to the table of contents, immediately told me this was one of those spiritual scare tactics often used to hook the fearfully faithful into the kingdom. What saves me from these kinds of things is the fact that I used to believe some of it. I certainly used to believe in hell. Still, I wasn't fully prepared for the graphic descriptions presented on the pages. Now, before I dive into the heart of the book, if it has any heart, let me say right off that the notion, doctrine, or theology of hell is perhaps the worst invention ever conjured from the imagination of the human mind. In my view, we need to bury the whole sordid legend and let it die. No other concept in all of religious history has caused as much needless pain and suffering than the dogma of divine punishment. The related concept of sin is a close second. We might say hell, or the fear of it, can be more a present than a future punishment. So what does Thomas à Kempis tell his readers? He opens a chapter on the torments of hell with these wondrous words. To imagine what the infernal realm of hell is really like is something which entirely exceeds the capacity of the human mind. Well, the horrors are beyond thought and words, yet, based on the visions of other saints, he proceeds to present us with fairly descriptive thoughts and words about this dreadful reality, he calls it. Now keep in mind, he's told us we can't even imagine how bad this place of torment really is, so he imagines it. Well, he describes, quote, a horrible and swirling chaos, a lightless subterranean cavern, swarming with hideous phantasms, a burning and bottomless pit full of inextinguishable fires. Well, does he have our attention yet? Is the dread building? We hear it's like an immense city populated entirely by the damned and by devils. The fire burns, but there's no light. Somehow there's air, and it's filled with the cries of tormented souls. Not only those fires hotter than any flame on earth, but, wait for it, freezing cold prevails. It's so terrible that he says, the burning heat and bitter cold cannot be imagined by the mortal mind. Nevertheless, he continues the imaginative tour of the dark, damnable dungeon. Well, somehow each lost sinner will have all their senses so they can experience the utmost pain. This is well designed. But it gets worse. If you sin with your hands in life, then you'll especially feel pain in your hands. The same for your tongue and all your limbs. You'll live through eternity with all the regrets of a life apart from God. Deathless worms will gnaw at your guilty conscience from the inside because you have put he says, foolish confidence in your own misguided intelligence, or in the wisdom of this world. The perpetual fires of the abyss will consume you. Beautiful, isn't it? For a mere 1,000 years? No, that wouldn't be enough. This kind of torture will have no end. Not even after, he says, not even after 1,000 years or 1,000 years. To drive home the horror of hell, Thomas à Kempis wants us to know the unimaginable suffering will last for an unimaginable length of time. He concludes this way: the years of pain shall exceed the number of stars in the sky. The centuries of sorrow will exceed the number of grains of sand on the seashore. Are we sufficiently horrified? The author goes on to paint a gloomy picture of the final judgment. But of course, this is not the end for sinners or saints. God's people, they will enter the joys of heaven among the angels and saints for eternity, even as the tortured people suffer the cost of their evil ways for the same endless amount of time beyond time. Well, there you have it. It's either a meditation on death, as he calls it, from an esteemed doctor of the church, or a nightmare that sounds like Dante's Inferno. As I see it, if a faith or religion can't survive without this, without a hell, it cannot be taken seriously in the 21st century. Anyone who says they believe in a God of love, who holds to any part of this terrible and terrorizing story, must be asked one fundamental question. What parent would do these kinds of things to any child they actually, truly, sincerely love, even if the child was disobedient? I don't know if you've ever given this thought, but if you haven't, now you know what that imaginative story has been told for centuries, and what it says, what it means, and how it's scared people into faith for a very long time and continues to terrorize people today. So, I don't know why this lady gave me this book, but it didn't terrorize me, but it did bring me to have to talk about it again. And whatever your thoughts are, let me know. And there is no hell. There is no hell. Take care.